The players, the personalities who come from around the world to play professional soccer in the United States.
Go, go, USA! Oh, it's incredible!
In a world where some call it football, football, or soccer, they dare to call it foosball. One thinks New York is blue. The other thinks New York is red. Soccer in America from a German perspective. Let them put some sauerkraut on your hot dog and join them for the Schnitzel Boys USA Hour.
Well, hello, it's the USA Hour. We are here. I ran the marathon yesterday. I'm about to pass out, but I will stay strong to talk about your triumph. Again, 2 weeks in a row, we're gonna talk about how good your team is, Stefan.
Yeah, it is. So it is the postseason season in Major League Soccer, in the American soccer sphere. There were 18 teams that qualified for the playoffs originally, boiled down very quickly to 16, and now we are at 12. Right, 4 teams have officially been eliminated. I want to say in the first round.
Yes, that's true.
Houston
Yes.
was eliminated. Real Salt Lake was eliminated.
Yes.
Colorado was eliminated, and now
Columbus
Crew were eliminated by the New York Red Bulls. We are the darlings of the playoffs right now. The New York Red Bulls beating the Columbus in 2. We didn't need a third game for that, by the way.
You didn't.
The biggest upset.
Go ahead.
Is the biggest upset so far of the season. 7th place knocking out 2nd place. And they're defending champions, by the way. Right at the end of the game, I believe it was Steve Cangelosi, who is more than perfect to be the great play-by-play for the great moments for the New York Red Bulls. Legend Kanji, and he's just like, the Major League Soccer will have a new champion this year. It's like, oh yeah, the defending champions are gone,
are done defending,
They're done defending. And Wilfred Nancy was linked to jobs in Ligue 1. Good for him, he deserves it. And I hope to see him go there over this winter season. Not because I have any ill will towards Columbus or anything, just because I like it. I like the story of Wilfred Nancy. Although he is a French national, he spent years in Quebec and earned all of his stripes in the Canadian and American soccer scene. And it's cool that he's being rewarded. Maybe it's a little bit of a sidestep. MLS has a funny history of like our worst coaches failing upwards in Europe, but our best coaches not getting any opportunities. Like Frank de Boer will like be the worst coach in Atlanta history, and then a week later he's coaching Holland. Or like there's been. I'm trying to think. I had a few more in my head the other day, but literally, the relationship between MLS coaches in Europe,
Gerhard Struber in a way, is a recent example. Yeah,
is a good example of that. But the European relationship, the relationship between European sport directors and Major League Soccer is that they give no value to the MLS record. If they think you were a coach in MLS, they could care less how bad you were. To them, that almost means nothing for some reason. And they've all been proven incorrect because every MLS coach that has failed upwards failed pretty miserably as well. It's almost as if
they're not good.
They're not good, and their record in MLS should have been a little more of a clue. So, but this is the opposite of that. This is a guy who's crushing it in MLS, and Europe is actually rewarding him for a good record. And I would love to see that translate into him going to France and crushing it in France. I think that would be, I would be all about that story because MLS baby's always fighting for respect, always. But speaking of fighting for respect, the New York Red Bulls went to Columbus, had themselves quite a cool 1-0 super Red Bull high press. You have the ball, we hold tight game. And then at home in front of a great crowd, it was an electric match. I don't know if you caught much of it. I know you were running the marathon.
Yeah, I watched I watched a bunch of it after, but yeah, it was wild.
Great game, back and forth. The New York Red Bulls got lucky. Columbus should have nailed a couple of goals there early. But then the New York Red Bulls were leading.
Hit the post twice in one in one sequence, right?
Right, Carlos Cornell was off his spot. No, there was a lot of moments where it's like, Columbus, you should be up ahead, but the New York Red Bulls held tight, and there were a couple of moments, a couple of great goals in the second half. We were leading 2-1, thanks to the Dante Van Zier finishing, something that he hasn't done in a long time. He finished yesterday, and Emil Forsberg being a great little offensive conductor. I mean, it really shows that when he was injured, we were missing a big piece to our puzzle. Anywho, it was 2-1, and then the referee. By the way, today I learned that stoppage time is dictated by the referee on the field, not the fourth official. Did you know that? I didn't know that. I guess it's something I should have known, but I always assumed it was just the fourth official. But anyway, the referee announced 12 minutes of stoppage time. And everyone is just like, what? What's 12? It was a very regular game. There was a couple goals, a couple subs. There was no prolonged stoppages. So in my world, I was like, this should only be like a 3 to 5 minute stoppage time situation. You know, what you expect. No, it's 12. And I could have fooled me. It beats me. The New York Red Bulls fans were pissed. The Columbus Crew fans were thankful because they knew they should not have gotten 12 minutes. And the chance of that so Metro were starting to come in. Because 12 minutes is so disheartening for a team that's holding a 1-goal lead. And you just know that they're going to get that equalizer at that moment. And sure enough, in the 6th minute, off a corner kick, they got themselves that equalizer. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, that's so Metro. They're going to win off the penalties, and they're going to beat us in Columbus, and then that's that. You know, like all the, you know, we're a scarred.
You
fan
do not
base.
believe. You don't believe in nice things happening.
Well, we have way too much PTSD for that. We're a scarred fan base, and we did get that equalizer. Not only that, there was a moment. I don't know if you saw the extra time, but there was a moment where a Columbus Crew in the attacking third, they got a throw-in. So he took it, and he botched the throw-in. Like, he didn't grab the ball good enough. It still went in. Like, it still bounced in bounds and everything. It went in, but it was just a bad throw-in. And then the Red Bulls intercepted the ball and were counterattacking, but the referee whistled and said, no, do the throw-in again, because he wanted him to do a better throw-in. And the New York Red Bulls, along with me and the fans, are just like, what is that? What rule is that? Like, that throw, that's their fault. They screwed up their throw. You know what I mean? And literally the New York Red Bulls and Sandro Schwartz was yelling at the fourth official. They're like, that's our throw-in. What do you mean they get to do it again? To do-over? And then this is in the 6th minute of extra time. It's like, why are you giving them do-overs? I've never seen that in soccer before. The ref will be like, you know what? I didn't like that. Do it again, but better, okay, guys?
Try another way.
Try it again. Remember, you guys got to beat these Red Bulls guys, okay? You know, so that was really grinding my gears. But anyway, it cuts to penalties. Very first penalty the New York Red Bulls we miss.
John Tolkien.
Was it John Tolkien? Yeah, it was pretty sad. So we had our backs to the wall the entire penalty shootout. Everyone was making it. Boop, boop, bop. The very last round, it was do or die. Carlos Cornell needs to save to get us in the sudden death penalties. He saves. He does. Amazing. Then our first sudden death penalty. A New York Red Bulls guy misses it again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, okay, now Columbus is going to kill us again. No, Carlos Cornell saves it again. Boom. 2 saves in a row.
Very dramatic shootout.
And then we stepped up again, and that time we didn't screw it up. Daniel Edelman, Carlos Cornell, 3 saves in a row. Daniel Edelman, local boy, American homegrown, steps up and nails it in the top right corner of the net. New York Red Bulls win, send Columbus home
and
packing.
then went absolutely nuts.
Yeah, the stadium goes nuts. Beautiful.
Took his shirt off and just did several
it.
victory laps.
God, I wish I was there. That is what being a fan is all about. The stadium was electric, and we haven't had a win like that in years because our last playoff win was 2017, I think. And then not only are we winning this series, we won it against the defending champions, the second best team in the East.
Not a lot of people had any money on you guys in this round.
And we did it with homegrowns, baby. Daniel Edelman, and help from Emma Forsberg, a good little Swedish DP, celebrating with the Viking Army, with the Viking hats, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a really great night at the Red Bull Arena, and the New York Red Bulls are through the first round into they are either facing Cincinnati and Cincy, which I hate now because or they're facing your boys.
My team.
But where will we be playing, Bjorn?
Yeah, well, I read today that both Yankee Stadium and because we would have home field if we make it this far because we have seated higher than you. However, it's apparently both Citi Field and Yankee Stadium have other commitments of sorts.
Like a good co-owner, they made sure to book those dates with unrelated events.
Yeah, not a lot of confidence in our staying power here.
Shouldn't there be? They're 25% owners, right? Shouldn't there be a
Well,
little
they're down to 10.
document
The
written
Yankees,
where it's like?
they're down to 10% now.
But still, can't they, you got to write a document to be like,
They
listen,
have
we got
not
rules.
been great. They haven't been great.
There
I
are
don't think
potential
anybody-
postseason dates.
I don't
You
think
can't book
anybody is
events
like.
during those dates.
I don't think you get anybody of the team to say like, "Yep, the Yankees, they're just great. They've been helping us." I mean, they will say this obviously because they have to, but
Well, here
yeah.
in LA, we spanked them for you. You're welcome. We spanked them packing in 5 games, so you're welcome.
Yeah, thank
Yankees can keep their thing. Dodgers took
guess.
care of them this year.
you. I don't mind
Anyway,
the
sorry.
baseball team. I just don't like the organization necessarily. Anyway, so yeah, because we forced a game 3. We're still in it. We won at Citi Field 3-1 in a well attended but somewhat subdued feeling, at least to me, stadium. I usually play.
Yeah, it wasn't as electric, I think, as
I was there and I felt like it was not. I don't really know what to make of that. Is it the?
Also, I'd like to add that if this was a 2-legged series, you guys would be through already. 3-2 on aggregate, right?
That's
or
true.
4-3 on aggregate, right? And that might also have maybe contributed to the crowd atmosphere, where it's like even if we win, there's still another game or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I was
Let's do or
wondering.
die.
There were 25,000 people there. I thought that's a decent.
Yeah, it's a decent crowd.
It was decent turnout. The stadium was full, but it was very, very quiet. It got a little louder at the end. Yeah, I mean, this still kind of speaks to my impression that the vibes are off somehow surrounding our team. I don't know. It's not clear what the problem is, but regardless, we had got a 3-1 victory that was much, much tighter than the result would suggest. We got a good 2-0 lead. The first half was quite solid, although the second goal was a gift from the Cincy defender, who kind of very poor clearance, just right in the path of Thiago Martins' head, who headed it in. And so we had a very good lead at halftime, but then Cincy scored as it happens, and then it got very, very tense. And Matty Freese made a bunch of saves. I mean, this could have very easily gone awry, but then late in stoppage time, we got a penalty. Santi Rodriguez converted, and that's the 3-1. So there you have it. I still, like I said, I still think something's off with the group and the vibes and the team. We have not looked convincing. Cincinnati is not that great. If they end up being the team to play, you guys, you still have
I
a
want to
chance.
spank them.
It's going to be a one.
Cincinnati.
It's not going to be a 3-game thing anymore. You're going to have a one.
No.
You're going to face a 1 game on the road, unless you play us, in which case you would get your wish, which is to be the road team at your own stadium.
Well, yeah, I guess that's what we are talking about right now. That both Citi Field and Yankee Stadium are unavailable on what would be that date. So they didn't announce that it would be. And my dream, just as a reminder, just because I love MLS quirks, and we'll talk about a few MLS quirks in this episode, like always. It's not an MLS podcast without us quirking. Is that I want to play NYCFC in the postseason where they are the highest seeded team, but due to stadium availability, although they are the home team, they are playing in our home stadium. we are technically the visiting team, even though it is our home stadium. And that is like you said, that's looking like a very real possibility. However, I think someone on Facebook was like, it's got to be at MetLife or something. But don't you think they'd probably put up in Connecticut? Or they'd probably put up in Connecticut then, or something? Don't you think? I mean, what do you think?
I don't know. Do we know? What do we know about the Yankee Stadium, Citi Field situation? Maybe
the
there's
Citi
some...
Field situation is that they're preparing for an event for later. I don't think there's anything on that event. They just need to quote unquote have field rest that day. Where the Yankees, I think, are hosting the College World Series or something. They are hosting.
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to find a way. I don't think they. I mean, that would just. Be
I have an offer.
Oh, here we go.
It's kind of leads in the other quirk is Ricky Puig.
Ricky Puig is going to host at his mansion.
Summer house. No. The LA Galaxy was by far the most one-sided series is the LA Galaxy Colorado series. They won 5-0 at home and then beat them 4-1 in Colorado, which will also lead into something else I want to talk about today. But the LA Galaxy really confidently spanking Colorado, the Colorado team full of America's best and brightest. And Ricky Puig tweeted, he's like, well, 21 days till our next game. Thanks, MLS. And I remember back when the New England Revolution, the year that NYCFC won, New England Revolution was this juggernaut of a team, but then when they were done with the regular season, they had a 21-day break before their postseason started, and that really messes with your momentum, So for a team like the LA Galaxy and now the New York Red Bulls, we have 20 days till our next game, 21 days. And it's a big break. It's not great. Again, this playoff schedule is flawed. I believe it's the case because there's an international break, right, in between that.
Yeah, there's another international window, yeah.
The Nations League's another window about that, I guess. And that's another plus category for what we talked about last week of switching into a fall-spring calendar.
Yeah, probably. Then you would not have any international breaks in that time.
My pitch is instead of waiting for the next Saturday, let's say if it is NYCFC, like scheduled on a Thursday night or a Wednesday night if you can. I don't exactly know what the schedule is. Schedule it as early as possible, and so that one of the stadiums can host it before they have to get ready for their event or whatever. So I think it's a win-win because
And then you would get us on short rest, or that would be the.
No, we'd all be on short rest. It's not short rest. It's like, I mean, if you play on a Saturday and your next game's on a Thursday. It's pretty regular, right? It's not that big of a deal.
Well, if you've won game 2 and you would have 10 days and we would have 4 days, that would definitely be an advantage.
Yeah, but that's going to happen either way. It's part of the playoffs. You have.
It's not going to happen.
We have an extra week no matter what happens.
Yeah, but that's a big difference. If it's like 2 weeks versus 3 weeks, that doesn't matter. But if it's 5 days versus 10 days, that makes a big difference.
Well. I don't know if that. I don't know why it would. I think a 5-day rest is normal. Like you're in momentum, you're playing. I think the players would prefer that, don't you think? Why would they want to cool off for an extra week?
Well, if the other team has 10 days rest, I don't think they would prefer that. That does make a big difference. If somebody plays midweek and the other team doesn't, and then you play on the weekend, that's a huge advantage. In MLS, you used to be able to almost always bet against that. If you have a road team on short rest versus a rested home team, the home team almost always wins.
Well, like I said, no matter what happens, we're gonna be a week more rested than you either way. But you're saying, yeah, it's a full week.
But if it's we would still have 2 weeks. That's full recovery for sure. So
is that how long it would be? What are these prospective dates, by the way?
Well, because it's the same thing. Now all the playoff games are on the weekend, so right. We're playing on Saturday. I'm considering going to Cincinnati to see this in person.
Yeah, Saturday, November 9th.
And it's Saturday, and then 2 weeks later we would play because the next weekend is the international break.
Yeah, that's a long break, man. So it's 2 weeks for you and 3 weeks for us. It's long. Ugh. So
yeah,
it kind of kills our momentum. I mean, we're riding the wave right now. It's like, come on, the Rebels need to be playing right now. That is one of the biggest flaws of the playoffs. One of the biggest flaws of our playoffs now.
Yeah, and then the the first round takes like a month, and then you have only like 5 games left. Yeah, this format, we've talked about it, still has some room to grow. Too many shootouts. All these penalties. It's no good. It's like a flawed. It's a flawed way to decide a game, and we shouldn't we talked about this last week. It shouldn't happen so much.
Yeah, if it were a two-legged system, then all games would guarantee to have been finished by now already. They would have finished yesterday, right?
Yeah, and then you could have
And then next weekend would be your one-off, so everyone has a week break, which is healthy for everybody. And then I guess you have to go to your national break. You can't change that. But then on the other end of the international break is the conference finals. There's only 4 teams left at that point, right? And then you'd have a little break before the conference finals and the MLS Cup, which is still weird. But I like that schedule way better because right now there's just huge gaps in between these games. And, yeah, everyone's just holding tight. You know, the big like LA Galaxy took good care of Colorado. Even though it was a 4-1 win, it was kind of 1-1 right towards the end there.
Yeah, it was close until the very end.
It was close.
Yeah, it's 2 goals in stoppage.
Technically, Colorado could have then had 2 scoreless draws and won on penalties twice in a row, and then they would have eliminated the LA Galaxy, which would have been ridiculous, I think. Yeah, so it's weird. And under the two-legged system now, the NYCFC would already be through on goal difference. But anyway, so how do you feel about Cincy? You said you're going to fly there. You're wearing Cincy's colors right now, by the way, orange and blue.
It's just my marathon shirt. Yeah, I won't be wearing that for the game.
Bad omen, perhaps. Do you feel? You said the vibe is off. Are you already do you think Cincy's going to win at home? Do you think it's a Cincy series or what?
Well, like I said, I don't think Cincy's that great. So I think we have a chance. They're not informed. They don't really have a proper striker. And I think we have a chance, but it's you don't know which team is going to show up. I'd be interested to see that stadium, get the vibe of the. I like a road game every once in a while. So, but do I feel like we're definitely going to win this? No.
Yeah, if you had to give a percentage, what would it be?
I would give us 35%.
Oh, so you're giving them I guess their home edge. Well, it's a do or die game. Hopefully they show up because it's the season depends on it. Hopefully they want to win the title, not have a prolonged break and find new clubs. You never know exactly what's motivating these players sometimes.
Yeah.
But I was really triggered online by a Cincinnati fan, and I hate them and I want to destroy them.
Okay.
And more so than usual because I didn't care for them last year either when they eliminated us in the penalties. That's another part of this New York Red Bulls game, the last 3 penalty kick shootouts we've lost. So we have not had a great penalty kick shootout record. So us beating Columbus was also a reversal of fortune. It was just a lot of things went right that night, man. It's one of those games I wish I was at. It's also one of those games that really solidify why you're a fan of your club, And some guy on Reddit was like, I was really triggered. He's like, saying a joke about, I like energy drinks. I don't want to offend energy drinks, thinking like our identity is related to energy drinks. And that's a great way to trigger a New York Red Bulls fan. So I wrote back, I'm like, we're Metro. We don't care about energy drinks. And he wrote back, he's like, yeah, whatever. Sure, man. Assuming that that
was some good banter.
I know, but it's just like, this also triggers me because I'm an MLS 1.0 fan. And he's some new kid on the block, Cincy fan. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know crap. He doesn't remember. He doesn't have my battle scars, And then I'm from a franchise where we've got scars. We've been there, done that. And if you know us, we're Metros. Like we have a very, very contentious relationship with our owners. It's just part of the identity of being a Red Bull fan. Same in Salzburg, same in Leipzig, bro. I think that's like a kinship we all share. Where it's like our owners and our fans are enemies. It's like part of the identity of the club is that we hate our owners. And every game is a banner of like sell Red Bull out, sell Red Bull. There's just like people won't drop it. So to not understand that, I think as a fan of another club, I guess am I being unfair? You should have an understanding of that. If you discredit the narrative of another group's fan base, I think that's breaking the rules. I think that's a step too far, in my opinion.
Wait, so what? Say that again?
If you, as a Cincinnati fan, he should understand that. He shouldn't challenge that. I think understanding the narrative of a fan base is different than rooting for your team on the field. So he's discrediting the whole narrative of our fan base, and that pisses me off. And I can't wait to slam their butts, freaking Cincinnati, 2 weeks from now, or 3 weeks from now, or 4 months from now, whenever that game will be. I don't know
Whatever
when
it will be.
Yeah, but I'm still rooting for NYCFC. NYCFC, it'll be. I think NYCFC versus Rebels will be a great playoff game. I would love to see it at Yankee Stadium, there's no reason it can't be a full house. Here, when LA Galaxy plays LAFC, they sell 90,000 tickets
for a playoff game. Yeah, that could be a big. Yeah, that could be a big.
I'm asking for New York City to do half of that. Here in LA, it's 90,000. Just in general, the New York, like Atlanta had Miami, they packed that. So it's 60,000
and they would have,
fans there.
and with the international break, they'd have 2 weeks to promote it. Yeah, it'd be. You're right.
Pack that stadium. That should be packed, and it's also a good way. It's just a good event.
Mm-hmm.
But anywho,
I'm sorry you were not the internet discourse didn't live up to your high-minded ideals.
I'm just saying, I was pretty neutral on them, but that one guy now pissed me off so much.
Now you hate this club with all your heart. But I mean,
I'm willing them to lose.
This is all normal, right? All of this is normal. Like for in internet banter, everything is fair game. I mean, certainly as an NYCFC fan, we have heard it all before. Carlos Coronel said right after postgame, he was asked if he had a preference in who to play, and he said, "Oh, I'd rather play Cincinnati since they have an actual soccer stadium." Oh, yawn.
Well, in his defense, it is a very real, genuinely, if they lose, you guys have to find some sort of stadium to play in. So it's not. I understand it's part of the banter, but it's also.
I don't think he was aware of the scheduling situation. He was just saying "Oh, they play in a the old they play in a baseball stadium." Okay, yeah.
True. Do you guys not play in a baseball stadium? Did I miss something?
No, we do, but there is a bad karma for those who. I think there is we have an somebody posted this online not too long ago. We have an overwhelmingly, perhaps perfect record against teams whose Twitter admin makes baseball stadium jokes before the game. We
See, now this is your version of what I just said.
We practically always win the game when that happens. So no, I'm saying bring it on, please. All the banter. All the banter you can muster.
I should look up what the record is when people make Red Bull energy drink references, what our winning record is for that, because that's our version of that. But also, I think it's unfair now. It's such a low blow now, because before the stadium was announced, it was a very real jibe. But now that the stadium is building, it's like, well,
it's happening.
Now, what are they supposed to do about it?
I guess get your digs in, while the getting's good, because you're running out of time.
Running out of time. And then when that's done, what's the new deal? Well, like I've said many times before, that new stadium should have 7th inning stretch. It should have a little bullpen. You should homage.
There's been a lot of talk that they should make it the exact size of the field at Yankee Stadium.
No, that's terrible. No. The whole biggest thing about that is NYCFC is a possession-based club.
My take on all of that, it's real, it's true. It is. We do play in a baseball stadium. It's been completely overblown. All the takes on what that means or what impact that has or how it is an advantage or a disadvantage or whatever has been completely overblown in my opinion.
And my take on that is that they could broadcast it so much better, but they clearly have limits. Like the Yankee Stadium has rules on how you can broadcast there, I guess. Because I've said this before, it's like if you just put the camera on a fake tower close to the field, no one's going to know the difference.
Yeah, it looks much worse on TV. That's true. Because
Sebas, my Red Bull brother. I haven't seen you in a while. How you doing, Sebas? Oh my God, we made it out of the first round. That's right, baby.
You sure did.
We got
Congratulations.
Or we got NYCFC. I in my dream, I know I don't want to share. I know you're not going to like this, but we play NYCFC. We win 11-0, and it's it's like a disaster for NYCFC. So much so that they might have to fold afterwards. It's like a
Ooh.
terrible. It's like one of those things where it's like more fans are there for NYCFC, but then it's like, wait a minute, this city has a real football club, and it ain't NYCFC. But that's just my wildest dreams.
This is just when you can't sleep at night. This is what you cook up.
Which happens way too much, by the way. Yeah. Anywho, so looking at the other clubs, Minnesota did that, by the way. LA and Minnesota are polar opposites. LA just spanked Colorado. Colorado made up of America's best and brightest. They got to the postseason, good for them, but they had no muster to go further over a great LA Galaxy team featuring one Marco Reus and 2024 newcomer of the year Gabriel Peck.
Oh yeah,
and
it's
Ricky
time
Puig.
it's time for the individual awards of the season. I do not care about those even a little bit. How about you?
I don't know what if you asked me, it's like, hey Stefan, who was the 2022?
Oh, I mean,
Well,
I guess
I have
it was
no idea.
Was it Lucha Crossay last year
I
or
don't
the year
know.
before, or the
I have
comeback player, the newcomer, I don't care about any of that. I don't care. I just don't care.
Yeah. I mean, it's also like you said, kind of. We didn't talk about. There's that Ballon d'Or controversy, which is always controversial with Vinicius.
Oh, because Rodri won? That's not controversial. He's very good.
Well, yeah, but Vinny thought he was going to win, and they boycotted the whole thing. And blah, blah, blah. Anywho, here, like you know how Apple TV has their clear like state-run media news stories where it's like they have to talk about Sandy Rodriguez for 45 minutes before every game, that kind of thing.
And how good
There's a good
Thiago
chance that
Martins is.
there's a good chance that that's also part of it all. There's a good chance that like these individual awards are just engineered by the league to try to muster up some sort of narrative they're working on. But anywho, so just a quick rundown. Minnesota got past RSL with 2 ties and 2 penalty kick shootouts.
Yeah.
Seattle did the same thing
Pretty
with Houston.
disappointing
2
for
ties.
RSL. The RSL season just went down the drain. They were so strong early on.
Yeah, penalties, and then Seattle did the same with Houston. They tied and beat them in penalties twice. So Seattle and Minnesota inched through. LA Galaxy barged through. New York Red Bulls were the darlings and definitely earned their spot, doing a great upset over the Crew. And then that's it, right?
Weird,
the other
that's
4,
another odd thing that you can just advance on 2 penalty kicks. Yeah, we've already had more upsets. Last year, only 3 teams made it to Game 3. This year, we have 4. Last year, we only had 1 upset in round 1. Now we already have 2, and the 4 games haven't even been played. So
yeah,
the road teams are stronger. The lower seeded teams are doing better this year than they did last year.
Yeah, and that bodes well for you because that means NYC. Because for NYCFC to win, that would be tipping the scales because you're the lower seeded team. So
yeah,
that would be an upset.
We'll
and
see.
then
Fingers crossed.
like LA, I thought LAFC were going to finish Vancouver last night, but Vancouver took good
Spanked
care
them.
of them. Spanked
Yeah.
them. Yeah, 3-0, I think, right?
In
And
the
it's
end,
like,
yeah.
whoa. So they're at a Game 3, but that's interesting. But I think I'm still giving it to LAFC. And then the other 2, and Miami, Atlanta. Atlanta had a great game hosting Miami in a packed stadium and pushing to a Game 3. And at the end, Tata
Brett
Martino
Guzan
gives
had
Rob.
had a real problem. Was happy to survive.
We'll
that
talk
game.
about a little preview. We'll talk about that in a second.
Oh,
That's one of
okay.
my 2 main topics. I'm gonna talk one of my 2 side topics.
All right, let's hear him.
But so Atlanta hosted, and then afterwards you saw Tata and Rob Valentino hug each other. It was so nice, and Tata was so like, it was crazy. It was like the student became the master. I think it's his old assistant or something, and he just hugged Rob and smiled and loved the fact that Atlanta beat him. You don't see that every day. It was a fun moment, but I think Miami is gonna spank him down in Miami. I mean, I still think Miami's the team to beat. And then so NYC, Cincinnati, Miami. Oh, Orlando, Charlotte. It's a pretty hard one to predict. They're pretty even, and they just both barely got one on each other, right?
No,
That one's
Orlando's going to take that one.
Yeah, and it'll be in Orlando, Miami, Florida Super Classico, which will be fun. Hopefully, also in a big stadium. But anyway, my topic is, I guess, in addition to the MLS quirk and the schedule, which I've already brought up, is there is a talk, a hypothesis. I'm going to put out a hypothesis. Over the weekend, we had Zach Steffen give up one of the biggest blunder goals you'll ever see. And this is a playoff game. He's on regular season. He kicks the ball to clear it, but it bounces off Ricky Puig, I think, right? And it bounces in the goal. And there you go. Essentially, that's like, well,
I don't think it was
Bye-bye.
Push or somebody else, but
well,
yeah,
someone, Peck maybe, or one of those
yeah.
guys, one of the LA Galaxy attackers. And something you never see. Like, you maybe see that in a FIFA, the video game sometimes, but like, you never see a goalkeeper kick it to a player where it bounces back in the goal. Like, that's bonkers. So Zach Steffen, America's Zach Steffen, number one goalkeeper Zach Steffen in that. Then Brad Guzan, our former number one goalkeeper, did this thing where he was running and then he fell or something, and then the ball rolled to an attacking player and then kicked it against. And I shared these clips on our Twitter, and it was another total big goalie blunder in a very important playoff game. And that's Zach Steffen and Brad Guzan, ladies and gentlemen. And there is a story right now, a very popular Twitter troll who everyone follows, listed. He's like, what's wrong with American goalkeepers? Which is a big story in the U.S. soccer fan deal. What happened to American goalkeepers? We used to be the best. Now we're the worst. And it is true. I learned that Zach's Ethan Horvath was dropped. I didn't know that. Ethan Horvath is on the bench in the championship. He lost his spot again. Matt Turner is the Crystal Palace bench keeper. That we know. And then Gaga Slonina was dropped at Barnsley. He was dropped. So all American goalkeepers are being dropped. And there was even talk about Matty Freeze being maybe the next U.S. goalkeeper because he had himself a great playoff so far, and maybe he needs to be considered for the next camp because no one else has covered themselves in glory.
Matty Freeze had a huge blunder in our playoff game that was not punished because, I mean, Matty Freeze, you know my opinion. Matty Freeze has been great. I have no complaints, but I don't think he's on that level currently, and I think he's been fortunate that his blunders don't lead to goals, so that's great. That in itself is a good quality, but yeah,
blunders aplenty, right? Real quick, just side story. I don't want to ignore Sebas here. We did the Red Bulls earlier in the show, but just want to say Dante Van Zier scored. No, I cannot. He's finished from a tight angle. I was like, because Dante Van Zier has been really stinking it up. He finished. He did it. I love it. Everything about the magic of that night. The players, Elias Manuel and Dante Van Zier have been very disappointing. We're not disappointing. They came up. They showed up for the occasion. Seba, I'm from New York. I'll never stop being a Red Bulls fan. You and me both, brother. Cool. Anywho. So I have a hypothesis to offer.
Okay.
And I use the term hypothesis because people use the term theory too much. I learned that in science class. A theory is essentially like a 99% fact that is supported by all sorts of science, but there's just one little that they just, for whatever reason, can't 100% prove it because they just can't. But it is a theory essentially is a fact for the most part. Hypothesis, however, in science is less supported. It's offering an idea.
It's something that we're testing.
To be tested, exactly. So that's why I'm going to use the term hypothesis.
Okay.
I'm going to try to stop using the term.
And I will test it for you.
My hypothesis is this. So back in the day when goalkeepers were like just shot stoppers, people with their hands, Americans were decent at it because in the American sporting landscape and the American sporting youth, Tony Meola is a perfect example of this. Tony Meola was the U.S. goalkeeper in 1990 and 94. He was drafted by the Yankees. He was drafted by the New York Giants, and I think he even played hockey or something. He was just like an American multi-sports guy. Freakish athlete. And he played indoor soccer. He was on Off-Broadway. Like, the dude's had quite the life. Anyway, he's an American with hands. He played for Brighton in England for a bit.
He's an American with hands.
Right.
Unlike most Americans who don't have hands.
Don't have hands. I meant like hand coordination, hand skill.
Okay.
And
I understood.
then
I'm giving you a hard time.
The best goalkeepers in the late 90s, early aughts, to me, were guys like Peter Schmeichel, Oli Kahn, Rusty Rekber, maybe Iker Casillas too. Definitely not. These guys. But of that generation, and during that time, we had Casey Keller, we had Brad Friedel, namely, and then later Timmy Howard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was an American trinity in England of Casey Keller, Brad Friedel, and Tim Howard. Then Brad Guzan was in there for a bit too, and and then Marcus Hanneman spent time there. We had just a good crew of American goalkeepers. However, So Americans were good with their hands. Peter Schmeichel would like toss it far. That was sort of the whole idea. And American outfield players didn't have feet. Americans had hands but no feet. And I just find that to be hilarious because what's the most important thing of soccer? Feet. Have feet.
I feel where you're going. All right.
Right. As I'm doing this a little slow. And we live in a day now where our outfield players are better than they've ever been. And I've talked about this before, how that gets challenged. Really pisses me off. Like, oh, he's no Tab Ramos. So Tab Ramos was a failure second division bench warmer. Okay, Christian Pulisic's player of the season for AC Milan. It's apples. It's not even close. Anyway, American players got feet now, for the most part.
Okay.
They need better feet. They need better feet, by the way. That's a whole other thing. But they got feet. Puli and Reina and Timo Weah and those guys. They got feet.
Men with
However,
feet.
Men with feet, which you need it because this is a foot sport. And I love how the Americans were able to get by without having feet for generations. You need feet. And what I mean by that is footwork, one-on-one, challenging a guy, holding the ball a bit, dribbling a bit.
The feet are just there to carry the head into the box so that it can head in the goal.
Head in the goal off set pieces. That's old school USA when under the old man. So what has happened with soccer? Oliver Kahn de Manuel Neuer is a perfect example of the paradigm shift. Oli Kahn was a shot stopper, and there's footage of him kicking his defenders out of the box, literally punching them because they didn't get out of the box fast enough. The idea of an old school goalkeeper was block the ball with your hands and kick it forward. Block,
punt
kick it forward. Block, kick it, punt it, right?
Hard.
That's what goalkeeping was up until the mid to late aughts, right? That's sort of what it was. But goalkeeping transitioned with this tiki-taka play out of the back.
Manuel Neuer being the pioneer of this, yes.
Sweeper, keeper. Mani Neuer. That's why Mani Neuer, he reinvented goalkeeping almost. Like him and Kahn are two totally different things. Schmeichel and Kahn have huge upper bodies, giant, what's this called? Arm length, whatever it is,
Wingspan?
Wingspan, But the modern goalkeeper, that's not the modern goalkeeper. The David De Gea's, the Alissons, the Edersons, the Manuel Neuers, that's not what they are. These guys, Ter Stegen at Barcelona, these guys are slimmer and they're good with their feet. The modern goalkeeper needs feet. That's what happened.
And the Americans can compete.
Americans don't have feet. Our goalkeepers don't have feet. So did the American goalkeeper get worse? No. The paradigm shift reevaluated the role of the goalkeeper, and the traditional American sportsman goalkeeper is no longer fit for that position. And the modern goalkeeper needs to be a guy with the same footwork that an outfield player has. And our goalkeepers, Zach Steffen and your Matt Turners and who have Matt Freezes and Sean Johns, they're just old school shot stoppers. They didn't get the memo. And just also our American soccer development program and scene and doesn't really encourage that. And, so that's my hypothesis. That's what's happening with American goalkeepers. That's why they're failing at a large scale.
Okay. May I respond?
Yes, please.
I think this is an interesting theory. I think it's probably
hypothesis.
I'm sorry, it's a hypothesis. An hypothesis that may not make it to theory status because I mean, it's just a generation. I feel in the larger sense of it, I feel like much like the field at Yankee Stadium, this gets a little bit overstated. I think this transition. I mean, you certainly have somebody like Manuel Neuer who was exceptional in that regard, in that he covered a lot of ground. He came out further than other people, and I think that has led to a paradigm shift to some extent. The goalie is expected to make himself available as an outlet. And pass it to. However, I would say this does not negate the the need to be a proper shot stopper. Your passing and your legs can be as good as you want. If you don't make the saves you're supposed to make, you're not gonna have a job. And I think that's, Matt Turner didn't get the job at Arsenal. He didn't get signed by Arsenal because he was so good with his feet. Like, he was not great, but he was an incredible shot stopper. And he just hasn't, for whatever reason, he has not kept that up. He has had trouble. So it's not like, I think he lost his spot because he wasn't stopping shots, not because he's not good with his feet. Zach Steffen is a good example. Zach Steffen was never that good at anything, in my opinion. It was always a mystery to me as to how he got all these jobs. And it was always like, oh, he's so good with his feet. It's like, I don't know. Not really. We had, at NYCFC, we had Luis Barraza, who really prided himself in his playing ability. He would, but then he let a few in that he should have saved, and then he lost his spot to Matt Freese, who also is not much of a passer. So I think in general, it's still shot stopping first, and I think that's where, I think this paradigm shift is a little overstated. And then, but I mean,
I agree with you. I think what you're saying doesn't disagree with what I'm saying. Like, shot stopping is the most important thing for a goalkeeper. I do agree with that. But you're saying Matt Turner lost his spot because of his shot stopping abilities. I disagree. He lost his spot because he wasn't good with his feet, in addition to his shot stopping ability.
Well, but I think
his blunder. Remember the blunder where he dropped his spot? His positional awareness was off. And, over the weekend with Zach and Brad, it was foot stuff. Same with Ethan Horvath. Same with Matt Turner. When they have to have the ball at their feet and pass out the back, that's where their weaknesses show up. And that's where the blunders come, and that's when they get dropped. So their shot-stopping abilities, I think, are pretty solid. And I agree with you, that is prime directive for a goalkeeper. But I think because they can't use their feet, they get called out on that a lot. And that's the weakness that's just too weak. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. I agree with you that shot stopping is still number one.
I think
that
it's
doesn't necessarily
always
disprove what I'm saying.
Right. I think that's fair. If
you look at
this.
Matt, sorry, you go for it. I'm just saying, if you look at Matt Turner's blunders, he was dribbling it and the defender took it from his feet. You know what I mean? The blunders are usually related to the fact that he can't dribble the ball well, and I think that's sort of what I'm getting at. Sorry.
I also am always, I'm always weary of the generalizations, like the American goalkeeper or whatever. I mean, we're talking about like 3 or 4 people, and so they're individual. They have individual issues. I mean, for example, this Brad Guzan thing was a total fluke. He doesn't do that a lot. Like, that's not indicative of any sort of larger trend. He just he slipped and fell, and he had a poor moment. If he had actually kicked the ball into the guy, they would have called it off. But since he didn't, this goal stood. And even the Zach Steffen thing, I mean, he has had a pretty rough up and down time in Colorado. But I mean, this is also not exactly typical. And I think he has struggled with his shot stopping. I think at Nottingham, I think Turner lost his job because he did he let a couple of short post goals in that he maybe should have saved, and I think that's still the bread and butter. And I guess we just have a problematic generation of goalkeepers. Yeah, Gaga Slonina was really hyped, but he's also very young, and I mean, that's how that goes. The prospects, the 18-year-old prospects, they don't always pan out, especially in the goalkeeper position. There's so much. You basically just have to be perfect, and a couple of misses will put you down the depth chart because there's always somebody waiting to take your job. So, yeah, I guess it's not really. I mean, I think we are at a point where there isn't a clear number one on the U.S. men's national team. It's not clear.
It's been like that for a while.
Going to be. It's been like that for a while. I mean, for a while when Matt Turner was playing, it was him.
Yeah, but that was also a should it be Matt, should it be Zach? You know what I mean? Should it be Ethan? You know,
I mean,
it's
I
not
don't.
super clear.
I was
In
always
Tim
yeah.
Howard's day, it was Tim, and then with Casey's
Right.
day, it was Casey, right? And then Brad goes on to, you know, it was right. And same with Germany. It's always clear. It's Neuer, now it's Ter Stegen. I know he's injured, but like there is right now it's open. It's not open and there's all these great guys. It's open and there's like, okay, we've got 5 to 10 really bad guys. It's like, who of these is less bad right now? We'll put them in goal. So it's a
Yeah, and
I look
there
at some of the
isn't
Gaga
anyone-
Slonina.
There isn't anyone really internationally that is playing. That's
No. They're all bent. Gaga Slonina's on the bench in Barnsley. Shame, I got reports. I thought he was doing well. I thought reports were going well. Same with Ethan Horvath. I thought he was doing well. Nah, they had some sloppy things. They're benched. They're all benched.
I mean, but I think this is also not a brand new thing. I mean, that Ethan Horvath has been on the, like, even in the discussion for this long is a testament to how thin the position is, because he hasn't. You know, he's been like sort of in the
He's hit
fighting
or
for a
miss.
spot
Always hit or miss,
in
yeah.
various at various championship teams. So yeah, the position is thin right now.
And so you look at a guy like Gaga, and I don't know. I hope he's working on his feet.
I guess
You know, but I think I was watching a video on goalkeepers over the weekend. Oliver Kahn thing said, like, you don't know if you're a goalkeeper until you're 28, something like that. Because like young goal, and Casey Keller also mentioned something like that. They're like, it's good, but like you're not a goalkeeper until you've had 100 games under your belt and you've come back. You know, they all share the same sentiment. Where it's like, to be a real goalkeeper, like you can be a young whippersnapper, up and comer, but you have to have like 10 seasons under your belt first before you're an actual goalkeeper. And I kind of understand what they're saying. So, you know, will that be Gaga? Will he stick to it? Who knows?
I will say, on a more positive note, perhaps, I feel like in this season the level of goalkeeping in MLS has gone up. I thought for a couple of years it was also kind of thin. There were a bunch of questionable dudes. Now there's a lot of good. I think Matt Freese has been. I'm not saying, you know.
I'm very happy with Carlos Cornell. Yeah,
Carlos Cornell is good. Kalina for Charlotte's been very very good. Schulte's been good. Schulte's played for the national team. So I think the MLS standard has risen, because in my opinion, like they were, I think last season and the year before, there was a lot of like, nobody can find a decent goalkeeper. You know, Roman Bürki, we have Hugo Lloris.
Right.
Even though
Stefan Frey,
exactly, still, he's still going strong. So
you see his power stance over the weekend when he blocked.
That's right. The league is doing all right, but Pochettino has his work cut out for him to find somebody.
Truth. All right, we got MLS coming on, NYCFC next week. By next week, we will know if it's Cincy versus the Red Bulls, or if it's time finally for the New York Derby in the playoffs, one and done.
That would be exciting.
Conference semifinals. It would be exciting. We will find out. Tune in next week here on the Schnitzel Boys. Same bat time, same bat channel.
That's
do you have any
right.
last thoughts? Do you have any last thoughts, Bjorn, on the U.S. soccer sphere?
The U.S. soccer sphere. I do not. I mean, there's all the individual awards. People talking about, should Messi be MVP? Does he play enough games? I just don't care. I don't care. This is this is for nerds. Those debates are for nerds. That's my take.
Yeah, and there could be multiple MVP. I mean, if Messi's MVP, that makes perfect sense.
It's a team sport, man.
Right.
I don't care about, and this is not an American thing. I don't care about the Ballon d'Or that much either, really. Yeah.
Me neither.
Whatever.
Me neither. As long as Lothar Matthäus gets to keep his World Footballer of the Year award from 1991 or whenever he had it.
Well, that was undisputed. That was the one time we could all agree.
Should Pulley be on the nomination list? I think Pulley should at least be nominated.
Come on. Well, this is the problem of the American fan. Any guy who's got like 3 good games, or everybody gets out. You know, Matty Freeze is going to Europe, or
Right.
Christian
That's
Pulisic
true.
gets the Ballon d'Or. It's like, just let them
desperate
be. Let them be good. Let them be good in the world that they're in. You don't pretend like they have to immediately be elevated into some other echelon.
Yeah, there's definitely an inferiority complex.
It's not
ingrained in the
necessary.
US soccer fan. That's true. All right. Speaking
Love
of,
love the players for who they are.
love the one that you're with. That's true. Love the one that you're with. Just
Tschüss.